Welcome to 2013 and welcome to the first episode of the new season of the British Movie Show, episode number 8, believe it or not. Hope you all had a wonderful Christmas, a wonderful New Year, and are all rested and ready to hit 2013 running. I am. I hope you enjoyed the end of the year show that was produced as well, with lots of guests like Simon Phillips, Paul Tanter, David Hughes, etc. As I mentioned in that, I did record what was meant to be a short segment with J.K. Amalou, the writer-director of the Danny Dyer starring film Deviation. That expanded into a lot longer section, and that is what you're about to hear now. It's about a 45-minute conversation between myself and J.K., where we talk about the British movie industry in general, and anybody who's a Danny Dyer fan, or even if you're not a Danny Dyer fan, you're going to hear a few stories about Danny. So to kick off this new episode of the British Movie Show, welcome to 2013, and here's a couple of sentences from Mr. Danny Dyer himself, and then we're going to lead into the conversation between myself and J.K. Amalou. So thank you very much to J.K., thank you very much to everybody who listens, and thank you to everybody who participated in the end of the year show as well. Sorry some of the segments were a little bit short, but hopefully in 2013 a lot of brilliant films are coming out, and I'm going to have a chance to chat to these guys for longer than I did. So on with the show.
I was just honoured that he asked me to do this, and he trusted me to do it. And the clever thing about the script and what, J.K. Amalou wanted to do is not make her this screaming little, terrified. I mean, she is in the first sort of 10 minutes, and then she starts to suss me out, she starts to play the game with me. And I think that's the key with my character, is I picked the wrong victim.
Page to screen.
Good evening, Mr. Amalou. How are you?
Hi, yeah, I'm a little bit late. I just got back home, so there you
go.
Wrapping up for the Christmas holidays. So basically, I'm just meeting people, and before they all disappear for Christmas.
Yes, they all disappear and then come back in January, don't
they?
Yes,
you're a very persistent guy.
Yes, hopefully not in a bad way.
Not at all. I think you could make a very good producer.
I have done that. I did that last year. I produced a show for a couple of authors, a couple of Australian. Well, one was Australian, one was American, and they're now into however many episodes they've done of their podcast. So I got them up and running. So no, it was fun. I just wish I had more time to do it rather than have to do a day job. So
Well, we never know. What you're doing right now could lead you onto much bigger things.
Fingers crossed. Yeah, get me a slightly better computer.
I'm not think of any TV or radio shows that are only about British films.
No, and I mean some of that, a large amount of that is down to yourself, because it was the conversations that you and I have had on Twitter over the year.
Mm-hmm.
And, sort of messages from Jonathan Southcott. And I thought, why? I mean, I live in Britain. I've lived in Britain all my life.
Yeah.
Why don't I watch more British films than I am doing? So that's when I decided, right, I'm going to start this British movie show and just see how that goes. But I actually enjoy that one more than the regular movie show I do.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's very good, because that's one thing, because as you can hear, I'm not British, I'm French. I've come over to the UK with my parents when I was about 16. 17. But I sort of went back and forth, went off to live in LA for about years and then came back and then, lived in Perth, lived in Switzerland, but I always came back to the UK. And there is one thing that I have always found very, very strange in the UK as a filmmaker is that every other country I've lived in and I've worked as well there, they pretty much defend their own filmmakers. I mean, the French are do everything to help their own filmmakers. They do the
Yeah.
same in America. They do the same in Switzerland as well. Over here, there's no real support. Basically, nothing is really apart from the big British films, which very often are not really British. I mean, they are American movies because they're financed by American companies or American studios. Apart from those films like Harry Potter or the King's Speech, I mean, which are made with foreign money, but call them British. There's absolutely nobody out there, whether it's the papers or the newspapers or radio or TV or anything like that, that is actually not standing up because it's not about standing up, but actually talking about the British film industry, but the people who are making films outside the system or people who are making smaller movies. That's one thing I found very, very surprising.
I also find it, I mean, a lot of the blame lies with the people who watch the movies as well, because I've gone from, I mean, I have a day job now in a video department in a really big store. Previous to that, I ran an actual video store for about a decade.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always worked within films. And you will always see people coming in, picking a film up, go, oh, this looks quite good. Oh, it's British, and they'll put it back down.
Yeah.
And I've seen that over the years, and it's never,
Yeah, yeah.
it never quite make any sense. They go, "Oh, I don't want that one. It's from my own country." You're like, "Well, why?" It doesn't. It's very
Yeah, I
bizarre.
mean, I
I
don't,
know.
I don't get it. I mean, because the thing is, the other thing I've come across very, very often is, you're in London. I'm in London. I'm in the back of a black cab, and and as you know, black cab driver love talking to the customers. And the conversation always goes like that. What do you do? And okay, I make films. What film have you made? I tell them, about Hard Man or Deviation or and oh yeah, 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 good, good. I love British film. I love British film. Why don't you make more? Why don't you make more?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, there are a lot of British film being made, British stories with British actors, in British towns. They are there, but it seems that, a lot of people are not aware of them at all. So, it's very, very strange.
The marketing money, I think, would be a lot of it because you don't tend to open a magazine and see a huge advert for Deviation or Rise and Fall of a White Collar Hooligan, but you do see ones for Men in Black and Avatar and The Hobbit.
To it, we are easy target for the film magazines or the newspapers. I mean, that's what they do. I mean, on the front page or the cover page, there'll always be the latest big American star, or there'll always be the latest big American blockbuster. So, in order to prove themselves as magazines or as good critics, if you like, they go very easy on the big American films. Yeah, because they want to be invited to the cocktail party, they want to be invited to the premiere, they want to be invited to the, to all the dues that those big companies throw to push their film. So, in order to look good and say, oh well, I'm a critic, I do my job. So what do? They pick very easy targets, i.e., the lower budget British films, and they just pick on them big time. It's a very easy target.
Yeah, it's also a very wrong target as well. And I think that's part of the reason I started up the British show is one, to educate myself on films, because I've discovered so many different films that I probably wouldn't have walked into HMV or the local Asda or whatever and seen on the shelf.
Yeah.
But I've discovered so many really good films that were made for, like a quarter of the budget of an episode of a Game of Thrones show, that type of thing. To me, it's all about the storyline.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is, it's very foolish because if you look at the very, very early films of film directors that are now, thought of as movie gods, Martin Scorsese or Francis Ford Coppola or Quentin Tarantino. If you look at their early films, they were not that good. I mean,
No.
I know that Quentin Tarantino he's always made people believe that Reservoir Dogs was his first film, except it wasn't. He made a film before, and he himself decided that it wasn't a very good film at all, so he buried it,
Right.
and hid it, and quite a few people are aware of it. But all to say that maybe the low budget British films being made, there will be some of them made by directors or writers or actors who in the future would be very very good directors. It's all about learning. I think it's maybe a lack of as a whole. I think it's a lack of culture in a way. That the lack of understanding that culture is something that you work on basically. You don't just say, okay, this is good, this is bad. Culture is a world, and I think it's something that you work on basically, that you develop. Talent is something that you develop basically.
Definitely is. So, I mean, how's your 2012 been? I mean, Deviation has come out and it's pretty much in a lot of people's homes and stuff now. 2012 been very good for yourself?
Yes, it had been. Yep. I'm pretty happy with it. When the film comes out, you do your job, in terms of marketing and promoting, etc. But it's no longer your film anymore. It's out of your hand. So the way I deal with it is by concentrating on the next one, basically.
Well, I look forward to seeing whatever your next one is. I was just looking at your IMDb list there. I know you've got Saving Amy coming up as a sort of producer credit, but I look forward to seeing something else coming up on the directing slot there. Because Deviation, I initially picked it up purely because Danny Dyer was in it,
Yeah.
and I've seen a lot of his films, and I know what I knew, or rather, I knew what to expect from a Danny Dyer film, like The Football Factory or The Business. To me, they were just pure. Put your feet up, watch them, have a laugh, and just be entertained by them. Deviation took Danny Dyer's acting skills to a whole new level, and I mean, did you write that thinking, yes, Danny Dyer would be perfect? And how on earth did
Um,
that come around?
it's very funny because when I first met with Danny, it was in a pub, and I remember telling him very, very clearly that if he wanted to make another Danny Dyer film, i.e., he's going to come down and do his Cockney geezer act, if you like, then I told him very straight that I wouldn't be interested in him. The only reason I wanted to make Deviation with him is to do something very, very different with him. To be fair, he was absolutely into this. He said to me very openly that he wanted to do something different, and that's why he wanted to meet me and talk about the film. So I think from the word go, we both knew that we wanted to do something different and not do another Danny Dyer film, basically.
And it definitely did that. I mean, I've seen the film maybe 3 or 4 times now, and it is. You can see the odd glimpse of the old Danny Dyer in there, but only for a split second, and then bang, he's straight into his sort of schizophrenic type role. So he did a very, very good job, and I just hope that he follows that on and keeps doing something different now and again. I know he probably makes a lot of his name by being the typical Danny Dyer, but I hope he does carry on and do more roles out of his comfort zone.
I hope so because he's an amazing actor. I know that he's getting a lot of bad press. I know that he's a bit of a Marmite actor in a way that you either hate him or you either or love him. But I really, really strongly believe. But then again, I'm not too surprised because there is another British actor who was in that situation about 20 years ago, and that would be Ray Winston. I
Yes.
remember Ray Winston about 20 years. He was always very heavily criticized. Oh yeah, yeah, Ray Winston doing another Ray Winston, and yeah, Ray Winston playing the gangster. And he was very much criticized as well. But 20 years on, everybody, look at him almost as a national treasure. And Danny is dead. I mean, the thing is, people don't always understand that, an actor is, okay, he's an actor, but at the same time, an actor brings an image. And sometimes actors can be a prisoner of that image. And I strongly believe that, Danny is actually a prisoner of his own image. People won't let him out of that image. And not just the public, but also the critics. They expect Danny Dyer to be in a film like, The Football Factory or The Business. They really expect him to be like that. If he's going to come out of that, then they're not going to like it. They're going to start criticizing him. So, oh, look, he's not that good, and blah blah blah. The usual stuff that we always read or hear about Danny Dyer.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. If Danny Dyer walks into a theatrical company saying, "I'd like to try some Shakespeare, please," they're gonna sort of go away. You're not doing Shakespeare. And then on the same hand, they may say, "Danny Dyer, he always does the same role. Why does he always do the same thing?" And as you said, it's because they don't let some people push themselves. But it's nice that Deviation is out there. I mean, my partner Annette, she's not a massive Danny Dyer fan, but I sat her down and said, seriously, watch this film. Loved it. And it's one of her sort of surprise hits and top films that she's seen this year.
Yeah.
And she wasn't a Danny Dyer fan.
Well, that's great. I'm glad because I'm always very happy to hear that because it sort of proved to me what I knew about him very early on, that he was a much better actor than people think, basically. So I'm very pleased to hear that.
I'm just very, very pleased that A, Danny said yes, B, that you asked him. So it's wonderful.
Fantastic.
Now,
I like that. I'm liking that.
so what would be some of the British films? I mean, everybody else has sort of suggested about 3 films. What sort of UK films are your personal favourites? Maybe some that you've used to think, yeah, I'm going to do something similar to that, or just 3 UK films that you love.
In terms of Deviation?
No, just in terms of general. If you had a section of British films in your house, what 3 would you think I need to have those films in there because I really enjoy them?
Okay. For me, I mean, my favorite will absolutely be Peeping Tom by Michael Powell.
Yes.
Absolutely love that film. I know maybe might have been overshadowed by the fact that it came out, I think, a few months before Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, because both films also sort of touch upon the same theme, basically. Um, this sort of meek, nondescript, psychotic killer that you see in Peeping Tom or in Psycho as well. But the reason why I love this film, I think it goes deeper about sort of and I think in a more clever way to explain why the reason for the killer's psychosis basically. Psycho was done in a very sort of slightly awkward manner when you have the shrink at the end of the film, at the end of Psycho, explaining why Norman Bates killed his mother and everything like that. Whereby in Peeping Tom, the explanation for his the killer's psychosis were pretty much integrated into the plot and the characters as well. And again, the other thing about Peeping Tom, it goes to show that now we're talking about this film as a classic. I know that the film is on many best horror movies list, whether it's with critics or the public or whatever. Funnily enough, that was a film that was absolutely totally destroyed by the critics when it came out, when it first came out. And in fact, because of the critics, it ended Michael Powell's career. From a political point of view, if you like, I thought that was a very interesting film. That now we call it a British master. At the time, the director, the makers of the film were actually crucified and killed to the point where they lost their career. Now, for the film itself, I absolutely love it. The story is more than just about a photographer killing his victim and recording the last horrified reaction. And it touches upon about the role of a horror filmmaker or even a filmmaker. How far do you go to manipulate the audience? Is the audience your victim? How do you do it? And I thought it was a very, that's why I love the film.
So it's a very creepy film. We started watching it for the first time about 6 months ago, and it sort of unnerved Annette so much she switched it off. So we've not actually resumed it because it made you feel weird watching that film. It was quite sort of very, very creepy and strange.
Yeah,
So we need to go back and restart that one and push through, I think.
yeah. I mean, yes. I mean, I know one of the biggest fan of the film is Martin Scorsese, because I happen to have worked with Martin Scorsese. He was a great fan of my first film, Heartland. So I ended up working for him on three different projects. He was my producer. And we talked about Peeping Tom, and I happen to know that he's also a great fan of the film. And the thing about the film, which I found absolutely amazing, is the fact that Michael Powell did not really didn't get scared about putting an audience ill at ease, basically. Um, Psycho was very good at scaring people. He came up with the right thrills and scares, etc. Now, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love Psycho as well. I think it's one of the greatest films ever made. However, Peeping Tom went further than that. It didn't just scare the audience; it also tripped them out, completely tripped them out. And this is something, for example, Martin Scorsese did very well in his film The King of Comedy, which was not a great hit because people just felt too ill at ease when they watched that film. And I think that's the great thing about Peeping Tom. It was a very courageous filmmaker at work who wanted to entertain his audience, but at the same time was not really scared of creeping them out, basically making them feel very, very uncomfortable when they watch the film. And I hope that this is something this is also something I've tried to do in Deviation in certain scenes, especially the scene in the car when Anna Walton, the nurse who's kidnapped by Danny Dyer, start looking after him, and start singing a little lullaby for him. Remember that moment?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. I mean, looking at the IMDb list of Deviation, it's great. There's such a small cast, and you don't sort of realize that when you're watching the film afterwards. There's hardly anybody in that film. I love movies like that.
Yeah, that's good. Put it down to the lack of money.
Yeah, but you sort of use that. I mean, I think that's another problem with sort of the major Hollywood films is they get thrown so much money at them. They just, they can do whatever they want. Whereas you look at a lot of the British films and a lot of sort of independent films all over the world, they've got so many restrictions on them
Mm-hmm.
that they are forced to do whatever they can do with the small resources, and it can produce gold. It really can.
But I mean, don't forget, when you have 50 million, what you're really doing, you're doing more than a film. You are creating a spectacle, basically. It has to be a total and utter, spectacle. That means a lot of actors and actresses, and then tributes, explosions. You are creating a big roller coaster, and you can see it as well in terms of screenplay. Very often when I watch this kind of film, and I enjoy them, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying they're bad movies at all. I think they're very good in terms of what they have to deliver. But when you read some of the screenplays for these big movies, it looks like a guide to a roller coaster, basically. Okay, here we're going to have a big chase, over there we're going to have a big fight, and then it's going to be an explosion, and then we're going to have all the police cars coming in. I mean, it's really it's like a fun fair ride in a way.
Yeah.
And that's the way they have to do it because $50 million is a lot of money. And when I say $50 million, I'm being very conservative. I mean,
Exactly. 50 million now is quite cheap for a film, isn't it? For a big
yeah,
Hollywood one, you go, oh, was that only 50 million? You know, whereas you give that money to a British thing, that would be like the biggest film ever produced over here
Ex-
for a while, wouldn't it? It's like, we've got 50 million.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, some of this film are $250 million. I mean, I heard that John Carter was about $220 million. Which is a hell of a lot of money. So yes, I mean, it is. It's a pretty much the business will dictate that if you are going to go out and make a film with $200 million, then don't think too much about characters and plot and whatever. You have to create some absolutely mind-boggling, mind-blowing scenes of action, etc., etc. Which is, a very, very, very far cry from Deviation. I mean, Deviation, we knew from the beginning that we had very limited funds. They're on two people, one car, one night.
Love it. And pretty much everybody I've shown it to as well, not one person's come back and went, I don't like that. I think there's somebody on Twitter, she's called US Danny Dyer fan. I don't think it's her most favourite Danny Dyer fan, but she does like, favourite Danny Dyer film, but she does like it. So I think she's just not got used to seeing Danny out of his comfort zone yet. But she does like the film. I think she
I
prefers
mean,
his Cockney wise guy type thing.
yeah, I agree. I mean, there are fans that are who are who love Danny Dyer, not just as a personality, because this is what happening. You've got fans who love him for his personality, and they expect to replicate his personality in any film that he makes, i.e., cheeky, funny, cockney geezer kind of thing. And there are other fans who are probably who love him as an actor, and they love to see him doing different things. It's a little bit, the difference between, say, Sylvester Stallone or Robert De Niro. Fans of Sylvester Stallone have never ever let him play anything else but Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah.
I remember when he made that film called Copland, in which he played this sort of deaf, overweight cop. His fan did not turn out. His fan did not come for the movie. They did not come out for the movie. The movie did well, I believe. It was nowhere. I mean, the movie was nowhere near what say Rambo did. As for Robert De Niro, I think his fans, expect him to do something different from one film to another. Even though I think in the last 5, 10 years he sort of got more the sort of comedic character kind of thing. But I'm talking about Robert De Niro in the 70s and the 80s. His fans, really expected him to do something different. So, he was, this sort of very fast, horrible Al Capone in the Untouchable, and then the next thing you know, he's playing this sort of, weirdo in the king of comedy, and then he went on to play, psychotic taxi driver, on and on and on. He was always doing something different. And I believe that Danny Dyer could have that career if, people could let him get out of his Cockney Visa image, basically.
No, I agree with that. He should definitely do more of what he's done. Sort of Deviation and beyond, definitely.
But it's also funny. I mean, if you talk to distributors, the people who make or break your film, if you go up to them and say, "Oh, I'm Danny Dyer," and they go, "Yeah, great, great, I want the film, I want the film," and then you tell them, "Oh, Danny Dyer is playing this, I don't know, gay sensitive," they will run. They will say, "Oh no, I'm not doing this film. No way. I can't sell Danny Dyer as a gay artist." But if you tell them, "Oh yeah, he's going to play, I don't know, a bad boy or a drug dealer or that sort of thing," and they'll all be there. So yes, I want that film. I want that film. So it's a very difficult thing. It's not an easy thing to do, and sometimes I wish critics could understand that. I mean, I was a bit disappointed by some of the critics on Deviation. They could have been a bit more gentle on Danny Dyer and actually praise him for trying to do something different. But
Exactly. They'll have a go at him for doing something different, but then they'll also have a go at him for always doing the same roles. So I think there's certain actors and filmmakers that critics will just sharpen their knives for, regardless of what they do.
I agree. I mean, it's very hypocritical. But anyway, that the way it is. That the way it is. You know. Well, I'm not going to swear on your show.
It's okay, you can do if you
I'll
wish.
tell you, I was more less than happy to read some reviews whereby they were, very, very critical of Danny Dyer, and then yet in the same review they would say something nice about the filmmakers, or the other way around. They say, oh yeah, Danny Dyer is great, but the filmmakers are not good. It's sort of forgetting the point of making a film. That when you make a film, it's everybody's effort, not just one person.
Yeah, I mean, I'd sort of discovered Deviation around the middle of the year, if I recall. So I wish I was around for its sort of full release. Then I would have tried to tip the balance on the reviews. I'll make sure I do on your next project. So what would be the choice for a number 2 film for you? So we've had Peeping Tom as number 1.
It's going to be Nil by Mouth. Gary Oldman film. It's the only film that he has directed. I love this film for its emotional power. I remember seeing it in a cinema in Brooklyn with a mate of mine. It was in the middle of the afternoon, so we were the only two people in there. And when we came out of that film, we were both absolutely punched. I mean, it's just a strong, strong, powerful film, and I believe this is maybe how what social films should be made, because we had very, very dark themes of wife abuse and alcoholism. But at the same time, he wasn't a self-pitying film, because it had great moments of humor as well, within the dysfunctional family. Because sometimes I do get a bit frustrated when people make films about what they call a social film, and it all becomes very, very miserable and dark. Sort of, you come out of it, drag your feet. You feel like the whole world is on your shoulders. But with this film, Nail by Mouth, I mean, it was such an amazing film. It was incredibly well directed, a very sort of documentary style, and yet it was sort of very heightened style as well. The actors were absolutely unbelievable. I'm talking about Ray Winston, Katie Burke as well. And it was absolutely riveting. It's one of the rare films that actually left me punk drunk. So yeah, I mean, I would definitely pick that film. It's not,
That
it's not, sort of happy kind of film, if you like, but it's such an intelligent, powerful film that yes, I would totally recommend it at all levels. Anyway.
that was a film that I'd seen back in the 90s when it was released, and I actually bought that 2 days ago on DVD, Nil by Mouth. I went out and bought 9 British movies, and Nil by Mouth was one of them, so I'll be rewatching that again very, very soon.
Yeah.
So that's definitely, I think if you were to put a best of Ray Winston section, I think Nil by Mouth would most definitely be on there.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, for me, I know that maybe, I don't know, but I mean, it's not a film that many people talk about, but I think it's one of the hidden gems of British filmmaking, quite frankly. Not just the story and the actors, but as well the way it was directed, the photography, the location, everything about it itself. So dark, but beautiful. There was a lot of what I would call dark poetry in that film as well. And yeah, I mean, I thought it was entertaining. I don't know. Yes, it is entertaining because it held my attention for an hour and 45 minutes or however long the film is. But I thought it was one of the most incredibly emotionally charged movie that I have seen. It's almost it's very moving as well, very poignant because you see the disintegration of that family, dysfunctional family as well. And at the same time, you do care for them. You do care for them. You say, no, no, don't go there. No, don't do this. But yet, they do it. This is what alcoholism or wife abuse or abuse to certain families, not all families, thankfully, but to certain families. It's absolutely riveting. I mean, it's just like it's probably as well the way it was shot because we felt this sort of uneasy peeping tom, actually, spectator of a very very dark drama. But at the same time, it has great moment of lightness in a way and relief as well. It had great moment of humor as well. So it's not all dark. It's not relentlessly dark. But no, a fantastic film. I mean, British filmmaking at the best, basically.
It is, yeah, and that's why I picked it up and thought that needs to go in my collection because I am increasing my British sort of DVD section and whatnot. So I've been picking up all the ones that I have seen. Quite a lot of them I haven't
Yeah.
seen.
Well,
Um,
what other film did you pick up?
I picked up Kill List by Ben Wheatley,
Yeah.
which I'd seen when Film 4 did a British Connection season.
Yeah.
I picked up Sleuth, where with Michael Caine. I think it's the remake rather than the new one. That's the film I haven't seen. What else did I pick up? Tyrannosaur, directed by Paddy Considine.
Film.
Excellent,
Yeah.
excellent film, but not an easy film to watch, but a very, very sort of powerful and well-made film.
There is a slight connection with Neil by Mouth.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep, definitely. And I picked up a film called Jack Falls, which is a Simon Phillips and Paul Tanter film.
Yeah.
And it's the only one of that trilogy that I haven't seen. So I saw it and thought, right, I'm having that.
Yeah.
So I've not yet watched that one, but I've got a bunch of movies to watch over the next few days.
Good.
And also what I'm doing on, I think it's February the 18th, because there's a film coming out called The Fall of the Essex Boys by Paul Tanter.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be watching British movies for 24 hours.
Oh.
So I'm going to get a big collection of those and just tweet and blog and
I tell you something.
Day,
If we could get 1 million people like you, I think the low budget independent British film would be in incredibly good health.
I'm hoping so, yeah. I mean, with my day job as well, I'm in the position to actually recommend films to people. So, when GBH and Football Hooligan were around there, White Collar Hooligan, I should say, I was able to say, watch that one. It's good. Just give them a synopsis and this, that, and people were going home with these films.
I wish I had the power to clone about 1 million guys like you, actually.
Well, that can help. I mean, it's sort of with the podcasting and with the blogging and people I've met on Twitter and stuff, I am getting people to realise how good some British films are. It'll just take me, maybe 2013, I'll crack it.
One thing there that I have to know, don't rent the movies, don't download them illegally.
No, not at all. I've met people that have done it, and in the past I have done it and whatnot, but there's nothing like looking at a shelf and I have a DVD collection of about 1,100 films, all original. I'm sitting in a room with posters on the wall and, that sort of thing. So, yeah, I've put a lot of effort into the movie business. I don't want to do anything that kills it, so I would never encourage anybody to download anyway. I'm a sucker for the special features on DVDs. And just actually having the cover art in your hand as well is always a huge bonus.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, I as I said, I mean, if we could get 1 million guys like you in the UK, I think we'll all be in very very good health.
Definitely. I'm trying to do my bit anyway.
All right, that's great. Great of you.
You keep making them. I'll keep recommending them and talking about them.
Yep, absolutely.
That's pretty good.
What I'm going to do actually is I'm definitely going to look into cloning you.
Yes. You're more than welcome.
1 million Stuart Bannerman.
Yeah, definitely. 1 million of me and the British filmmakers and French filmmakers. Well, you'll all be a happy bunch.
Absolutely. Sorted. Absolutely sorted.
So what would be your sort of third and final choice for the films?
It'll be Mona Lisa. Yes, I know. It was written and directed by an Irishman. But it is. It was financed by British producers, Stephen Woolley and Nick Powell. So for me, I see it, as a British film, basically. Again, the reason why I love this film is very simple. It's because it sort of had a really, really beautiful and yet bittersweet love story at its heart, which is Bob Hoskin and the actress. Absolutely love this film because it's so tragic and yet funny as well. The scene I remember the most is when they are walking along the Brighton Pier, and you got a sort of heartbroken Bob Hoskin who understands that he'll never ever be able to have a relationship with Cathy Tyson, and he's walking around with these really funny, funky sunglasses that he's bought on the pier. He looked like such a bit of a ridiculous clown, and yet your heart breaks for him. Yes, I mean, and also the other thing I like about it is it had a very good angle about making gangster film. Basically, I do love the fact that they made a gangster film, but they did it through that angle, which is this sort of bittersweet, tragic relationship between Bob Hoskin and Cathy Tyson. Yeah, I absolutely love the film. So yeah, that's the one. Did you see it?
I did. I saw that many, many years ago, and that is one that's on my sort of hit list to pick up when I see the DVD again. I actually uploaded the trailer for Mona Lisa on the YouTube channel that I run as well, so a lot of people can just. I've started doing like a best of British section with a lot of trailers from old films, and Mona Lisa was up there.
Yeah.
Uh, you
You
know,
have to check. I
so
mean, the performances are fantastic. And let not forget Michael Caine,
yeah.
the big bad boy in that film. He did incredibly well. I think it was more of a cameo actually than a fully blown part in the film. Um,
Yeah, I mean it's a good old sort of late 80s. I think was the last time I actually saw Mona Lisa, so it's a long time. So it definitely needs to be rewatched. Same with things like The Long Good Friday. I've not seen that for
yeah, I mean,
many, many years.
in that film that I wanted to pick older film probably compared to I don't know who what other film your other people have picked, but I wanted to pick some older films, maybe as a reminder that there is a British film history. Sometimes people forget that there is British have made great films throughout the 20th century. And that's why I made it. I did it on purpose to go back a little bit in time. In my choice of movies. And also probably there are movies that I've been watching. Very, very either before I became a filmmaker or very, very early on in my career. There are films that you watch as a filmmaker and you sort of say, "Oh, yes, it's kind of film I'd like to make." And I have to say that out of the three, Peeping Tom and Neil by Mouth were not, great hits at all. I mean, in fact, I mean, they disappeared very, very quickly. So sometimes it's nice to perhaps not go for the obvious and try and find great movies, that I call hidden gems, basically.
It is. A lot of people seem to think that the film industry in the UK started with Lock, Stock, and Smoking Barrels. It was around a long time before that, wasn't
I
it?
have to correct you. The film industry in the UK started with my own film, Hard Man.
Yes, which weirdly enough, I was looking when I was sort of first starting to talk to you. I thought I recognise that title, and I looked at the cover and I actually remember watching that film on VHS when I was working in the video store.
Yeah. No,
Not even in my wildest dreams, because I think that
why?
20 years
Why I'm saying that is because Hardman was made before Lockstock.
it was. Yeah.
Yeah, and I had a phone call from Guy Ritchie at the time who told me on the phone that he used Hardman as a reference for Lockstock. And in fact, Hardman opened up the way for Lockstock because at the time nobody really believed that there was a market for British gangster films until my distributor put out Hardman in very very few cinemas, so for about a week or two, and then he put it out on video and DVD. And when it came out on video and DVD, everybody in the business was absolutely shocked when we came number 8 in the chart. In the same week that a film by Jack Nicholson with Jack Nicholson came out, in the same week a Walt Disney cartoon came out, we came ahead of a Walt Disney cartoon, and we came ahead of a Jack Nicholson movie. So suddenly, everybody in the business, well, God, yes, there's a market for a British gangster film, to sort of a British gangster comedy kind of.
Yeah.
And they were looking around, so we've got to find another film like that or similar or something like that. So they looked around, and the only film that was floating around at the time, and they've been struggling to get distribution for 18 months at the time, was Lockstock. So they pick up Lockstock, and like my movie, and great for them. I'm really, really happy for them. They spent a lot of money to push that film in the market, and Lockstock became Lockstock, basically.
Yeah.
Because the promotion marketing money I had on Hardman was I think 7% of what was spent on Lockstock. So there you go. But yeah, I did get that call at the time, way back then. I did get a call from a guy who also used quite a few people who worked on Hardman for his film, and one of the actors on Hardman. Was asked by Guy Ritchie to be a Lockstock, and that actor told Guy Ritchie, said, "Oh, no, I can't do another gangster film. I've just made one." I bet he regrets it now.
I bet he does. But I find it very sort of wonderfully bizarre that I was watching that film back in the late 90s. And then obviously here I'm 2012 talking to the guy behind it. So, yeah. I was one of the viewers of Hard Men way, way back when it hit VHS.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah, I mean the thing is, it gave me my career in LA because on the back of that film, suddenly I had offers from the studios, and I ended up working, being hired to work on films that were produced by Martin Scorsese, by Ridley Scott. I developed a film with Diane Keaton, another one with Mark Wahlberg. I mean, that film gave me a career. I couldn't, and the funny thing about it is that uh, there I was, being sort of wine and dined by the American, by Hollywood, if you want to call it like that. And, we put up in the best hotels in LA. It was like, the life of Riley. I remember at the time I was giggling to myself all the time because I was like, it's not possible. It's not happening. This is crazy. I'm going to go and meet Martin Scorsese. No way, no way. But they liked the film. They liked the film enough, to do this. And the funny thing about it is that I was, sort of, if you want to call it like that, the high life in LA. I couldn't get a job in this country. It couldn't get a
Yeah.
job. It was just weird. I mean, I remember I did an interview back then, and I said, "Well, yeah, it's all great, and you can check it out. What I'm saying, you can check it out, because I remember I even made the front page of Screen International as a sort of hot filmmaking, etc., etc. And then the funny thing about it is that I did say in an interview that yeah, it's all great, but it's a shame I can't even catch a bloody episode of the bill.
Yeah.
It was just like it's weird. It's very very weird.
Which sort of brings us full circle to when you were saying that the British sort of industry doesn't look after itself, and the public don't tend to pay much attention to British films and so on. That's why people do go to the US, isn't it?
Yeah,
Because over there they do pay attention and they do support them.
I think what's lacking more than anything is that the industry does not develop talent. That's what it is. They're not going to look at a film and say, okay, it's flawed, but there's a very strong talent there at work. Maybe we should develop it. Maybe we should try and do something. That culture does not exist. And I think cultural life should bring in the whole idea of developing talent. Because if you take the greatest filmmakers, I mean, Danny Boyle, he wasn't born Danny Boyle. He developed into Danny Boyle, the filmmaker. You understand what I mean? He did.
Yes.
Before he came to his first film, how was it called? That first film he made.
I mean, that's what I'm looking at. I mean, everybody thinks, right, Danny Boyle, the first thing he ever did was Shallow Grave. But if you look at his filmography, he was working, according to IMDb, like 7 or 8 years long before that.
Yeah.
And he started off in television and did bits and pieces. But you ask people to name Danny Boyle's directorial debut, they'll all come out with either Trainspotting or Shallow Grave, which are both wrong answers, aren't they?
I mean, there are people like that. I mean, it's like, the producer Jonathan Stopcock, for example, he makes film. He makes film. he makes them. He makes them happen. For God's sake, praise the guy. It's too easy to go after his film. Oh, it's not so good. It's not so great. Blah blah blah. I mean, it's quite incredible. You have people like Jonathan Ross, who I remember at one point had a show on TV over here, where he was absolutely reveling in the low budget American film, basically. Okay, uh,
Yeah.
and how crazy it was, and how not so great it was, but it was crazy because people had imagination, they made things happen. I mean, all these independent filmmakers, he was praising them for their independence, for their resourcefulness, for for making films, and yet you do not see this in this country, and I think this is quite bizarre. It's sad. It's really, really sad because there are a lot of filmmakers out there who, by hook or by crook, put a few pounds together and they go out there and make the movie. And just for that, I think they should be praised.
Yeah, but I'm hoping to sort of partially change that. I mean, I'd love to change it all by myself, but
I said we need a million guys like you.
Yeah. Well, now you need 999,999 because you've got me on board.
I would do. We'll have 1,000,001.
Yes, that'll do. So we need a million more.
That's it. That's the one.
But no, definitely. But I just want to thank you for taking the time to actually have this conversation as well. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. I've learned a lot. Hopefully, everybody that's listening to this has learned a lot as well.
Right.
Any feedback I get as well, I will pass on to you so you can have a look. I'm pretty sure US Danny Dyer fan will be giggling at the fact she's been mentioned and stuff, so she'll be all hyper.
I will repeat it. I will say it and I will repeat it. Danny Dyer is a great actor. And I think a lot of people out there, whether they're critics or filmmakers or anybody like that, should absolutely work with the guy because not only he's a great actor, but he's a great guy too.
Agreed.
Very, very good guy. And a very happy New Year, and I hope I'll meet you again in the New Year.